So, welcome to Trade Reboot Global Commodities Conference 2020. And we're now joined by a distinguished guest. Please welcome Engineer Salam Al Sharif and the three flags right behind him convey a story that he is the chairman of the BIR Ambassador Committee. BIR is the Bureau of International Recycling Europe. He's the honorary chairman of BMR, which is of Middle East Recycling. And he's also the chairman of Sharif's Metal Group. A pleasure having you with us on the program, engineer. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So let me first ask you, as somebody who's had extensive experience of the commodities market, how do you see integration of technology and commodities trade?
Well, I think commodity has been founded much before mankind. So apparently, that is the essential resources which we always have to figure out how to try to best make a use of. At the same time, when I say making the best use of, we should not really get into any abusing of those resources. Now, to treat them with efficiency, however, with sustainability. In order to meet both subjects and objectives, I believe we do have to use technology in the meantime, because those days when mankind was doing all the handwork and manpower used to be the main resource, those days have gone, and technology has carried us to an extent where we can meet at a span of 15 to half an hour lead time, with you calling me right out from the beach to come and join this interview, and I say, okay, give me 30 minutes and I'll be right on. So thanks to technology, that has really bridged the gap and been a wedge between the past and the future. Now technology has been quite essential for the recycling and to the integration part of the operation, whether it's processing whatever mankind used to be in use for. Now a machine can do a work of at least close to maybe 50 people at one particular time, as well as the identification of metals. When those days, I remember, this is interesting, I had one Japanese old visitor who was back then when I was 26 years old. He was at that time 76 years old, and I'm talking it was back in 87, 88. Okay. And I got him to the yard to take a tour, and he had to distinguish one of the fluxes that we were using in our foundries. And you know what he did? He put his little finger in his mouth, and he just put some of the fluxes, and he did take a taste of it, and he could tell me that flux is so and so number in chemical composition. Of course, I freaked out because I thought that is a hell of a toxic chemical to put it in his mouth. But he said, son, I've been in business before you were born. So those days have gone, because the characters and the kind of people who have those expertise, I believe by now, they have passed away, and the new generation wouldn't dare to get close to it. Neither they have the experience or the stamina to even dare to get into that technique. So technology will always help us to identify the base metals in terms of which kind of alloy and which kind of higher value in terms of nickel alloys and so forth. And if you want to be in business, you better be able to keep a trace of technology. Otherwise, you'll be outdated and quite obsolete in your operation. So it's pretty much in line with the modern technology of day-to-day life.
And do tell us, Mr. Sharif, how big is the business or the market of recycling materials? If there's a scrap dealer today, is there a lot of scope there? And that is where technology can also help.
Well, the scope of recycling, in my opinion, and I don't want to be biased to my industry because I wear three caps wherein it's all heart and soul, being really raised and born and raised in this kind of business, recycling is quite eternal. And my dad one day used to tell me when I was young, son, if you want to be in the business, which is a royal business, and be able to be making a lot of money, you better join the scrap business. And I said, is that for real? I'm sure he's trying to pull my leg into his business. But I did realize that after I really joined the business when I was in the a teenager is when I really joined the business, trying to put in some time into the yard of the dismantling part of the engine blocks and all the copper automobile starters and the getting the copper out. Then when I have graduated and joined the business and became the back then the managing director, then got to be by vice president, then to the chairman, I realized that this is a business that whenever you are at the right hands and with the right people, you are in the business of royal, uh, I can say, frame of work, because you quite be honest to people that you deal with, and you will be quite reciprocated. Now, this is the business that is quite eternal. It is something that we do have to nurture and pass on to the new generations. And of course, as the time passes by and things do evolve, we just can't really pass it on with the old technology, which we have, as we call the old school. I was lucky into being caught between old school and new school, because when I have joined the business, I was barely 22 after I graduated as a civil and a metallurgical engineer from Texas A&M back in 1984. My
Yes.
competitors at that time and the people who were in the business were aging me by about 15 years older.
Okay.
So I could manage, as I have evolved through this career of my own, I could manage to pick up the technology which those batch had missed out on. And at the same time, when the new generation came up, like my sons, of course, I was feeling at that time that I do need to go back and educate myself to catch up with their kind of technology.
Yeah.
But I still tell them, hey, we beat you guys because we got the old school tradition
Yes.
combined with the new school. So that remains to be the secret of getting a successful business. So
Absolutely.
I just can add my voice to it. Technology is something you do have to pick up as and when you can, but being selective where it doesn't become counterproductive. At the same time, it's got to be built into your system where you can cope with the challenges and be able to have a sustainable business for future generations to come.
So, how fast do you think a small, medium scrap dealer or a business person into recycling could adapt an emerging technology like blockchain?
Well, a small enterprise coming up as a newcomer in this business. First of all, I believe they do have to understand the principles of the business. They should understand that this is a commodity that and the industry sector that it's got to be looked into in long-term business. It's not a quick buck that you can make and go into shifting or flipping the page into another career. It's something you gotta adapt it for long term. So you need to really understand the fundamentals of this business. You really have to set up your goal quite far and long enough that you think it is a career and it is just not a quick buck making kind of business, because it's got its ups and downs and it needs the stamina to whereby you could have some bad days and you could end up in getting a lot of good days. But I do understand now a lot of us think the good old days have been over, but I'm still quite optimistic. You can still have your business looked after by making sure you mind your own business, you follow the right technology, you learn from the predecessors who have been ahead of you in the business. Try to always educate yourself. Now, with the open technology and the social media, and you don't need to really carry a book and go and try to look up some information as we used to go to the good old libraries back
Yes.
then, break your head to find a book or an article. Today, on a push button, you can always find the specifications of the ISRI, which were back then when I joined, they were called the NARI specs, okay, and they were converted into the ISRI specs. And I know I used to have my little book and write the commodities in terms of the ISRI specifications and relate them to the metals, which is in our small yard. But now, when in a push button, you got the specs, you got all the buyers and sellers on maybe LinkedIn or on a small platform. So I believe they do have it more of a available on a silver platter. However, they may lack the little bit of the fundamentals which we as I don't want to say I don't fit into the old batch of those veterans, but I can say I am falling still in the middle. They do have to appreciate that there are principles, there are ethics of this business. While they apply technology, they got to remember honoring a contract is a wedlock. It's not something you want just pass by, and if you like it you perform it, and if you don't you think you have another option. You do not have another option but to be committed to your contract, committed to your business. You can go as the sky is the limits in terms of bringing in technology, but it may not fit all into that bowl where you need it to be efficient and add value. So you got to take an advice from the old timers. As any new smart, educated, higher degrees, whether it's whichever you call it, not that we have not gone into higher degrees, but some of the newcomers, they think they know a lot. And by the time they learned it, it's the hard way when they have really stepped on their own feet.
Yes, absolutely. To conclude, Engineer Salam Al Sharif, you've given us many profound statements, beginning with the fact that commodity is older than mankind itself. Perhaps trade started as early as civilization. The other statement that you really made, and people would like to make a note of it, is that recycling is eternal. Hats off to father who had that kind of vision as early as 1963 when he set up the business and passed on the wisdom to generations. So, finally, do you think that digital era has arrived? You could have been on the beach half an hour back, but courtesy this virtual conference, you have joined us, and therefore it's time that people in the metal sector, both ferrous, non-ferrous, in trade, adopt technology with much more accelerated speed over the course of next few years.
Well, to be fair, also, when I had to spend a lot of my leisure time now, not that I used to be able to afford that kind of time at the beach, even if it's a Friday, it was because I had my two beloved sons, Mahmoud and Omar, were also at the beach with me. And I realized that they were picking up the calls that I used to pick up a few years back.
Mm.
They got into the business about 4 to 7 years ago.
Mm.
Mahmoud got into the business 7 years ago. Omar about 5 years ago. And to the pride of mine and to the joy and pride of their grandfather, they have started their own two companies. One is Sharif Metals Group, and one is Sharif Recycling Group, and one is for the trading, and the other one is for the production of aluminum and lead alloys. And that's the reason I have more of a handed over some of the major chunk of the daily communications to them. Albeit having said, uh, I have been keeping a track on what they do, and I've been holding on to their reins because they could go really leaping out into bigger business and maybe over trading. And here is my job is to remind them that mankind was born with a gravity. You cannot just dislink yourself or unlink yourself from the gravity and end up in going into the upper horizon without realizing you gotta really take care of the technology. The digital era is available where you have the prices and the LMEs and the information on fingertips, which I appreciate. And it wasn't available back then when I started. I have done a lot of telex communication with the London Metal Exchange. Back then, it was under the Metal Bulletin subscription fee, and I'm talking in 1985 and 86. And now with a push button, the digitalization have made your life so comfortable and efficient, but you cannot trade away your business on high digital platform uh, based technology because you may not be aware of who is the other side that you're dealing with. I still believe that you cannot fax a handshake. You still have to have a proper handshake, get to know your customer, KYC, get to really deal with them as a wedlock of relationship. You gotta wine and dine with them, know how they perform, how they react to the contracts, deal with them like you're an extended family members. So a combination of the digitalization and the, if you like, the good old school of uh, uh, what we were raised on and learned, that will be the best bet. Don't get it all in technology because one day you may not afford the deals that you'll be able to strike.
Okay, I think that's a very good point that we can have wings of technology, but we need the traditional roots too. One final word. Would you like to congratulate Trade Reboot, who have organized this 3 day virtual conference? And we are so happy that global voices like you have been able to come and share your words of wisdom with nearly 3,000 participants.
You know, when I heard that it was 2,800 to 3,000 participants from Sunilji, I really dropped my jaw because that is out of joys and happiness. I'm not really I wasn't expecting that many participants, but knowing Sunilji, who's run few conferences in India, and he brought all stakeholders into one platform. And I was lucky to have two awards back then as the best recycler in the Middle East, and one is an honorable certificate of my own.
Yes,
Having known him, and Solina, his daughter, who's graduated from the London School of Economics, I
yes.
think that is a backbone where a trade boot reboot has managed in such a short time to get all stakeholders and up to 3,000 participants on one very professional platform. I realized it's like you have really made us walk through the conference hall,
Yes,
one, two, three, four, pick up
yes.
your table, and the only thing we missed is the embracing and the hugs, which we used to have with our colleagues. But hats off for what the Trade Reboot has done in such a short time. It has really been a great image for the recycling industry and the circular economy advocation and marketing. I have shared some of your uh, 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 programs with our president of the Bureau of International Recycling, Tom Bird. He was quite happy that I had the opportunity to join. I also represented the Bureau of Middle East Recycling as an honorary chairman. It's really been a very warm and informative 3 days. and I realized a lot of efforts have been done in such a span of time. A heartful applause and congratulations to all the team that has been working behind this. The message is that also promoting the recycling industry, the circular economy, it's everybody's uh, job and duty. Now, wearing the hat of BIR as ambassador's chairman, I call everybody in this on this platform as an ambassador for the recycling industry. Have the good word of the mouth, have the good old practice passed on to new generations. It's been a great program. I enjoyed it, and I look forward to joining the next conventions and then when I get invited and my time allows to do that. Really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on board.
Thank you very much, Engineer Salam Al Sharif, for your motivating words. We all stand committed to sustainable circular economy, and I'm sure technology is something we'll all leverage for greater good of humanity. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you.